So many years of catastrophe, more than 6 million refugees. It could be you and your family, forced from your home and your history.
We are the people, and this is our time. Stand up, sing out for Palestine.
Hello, I'm your host, Kathleen Wells, and welcome to Palestine Today, a radio program dedicated to the news about Palestine. Joining me today from Gaza City in Gaza is British journalist and filmmaker Harry Fear. And for the next hour, Harry and I will bring you the unfiltered truth. Truth you can't get in the mainstream media. Truth you can't find anywhere in the newspapers, mainstream or even non-mainstream. We're going to bring that truth to you here all hour on Palestine Today. In fact, I think there are only two other stations that talk about the Israel-Palestine issue, and that's Jeffrey Blankford Station in Mendocino County, KZXY, I think I'm saying it right, and also Don Bastanti on KPFK. Those are the only two stations, and then us here at KCAA. So, as I said, we're going to bring you the unfiltered truth about the situation in Palestine from the perspective of Palestinians who live there. Our weekly show is sponsored by the Washington Report on Middle East Affairs, Playgrounds for Palestine, and Mr. Henry Clifford. So welcome, Harry. How are you today?
Thanks for having me back. I'm good. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you okay.
Good.
So, tell me, how are you today?
I'm good. I'm fine. Unfortunately, I'm not in Gaza, but I will be back soon, hopefully. Some bureaucratic issues, in fact, topical bureaucratic issues, because it's not just me that's having a slight issue getting into Gaza at the moment, but it's also a UK aid convoy, my native Britain. There's an aid convoy taking medicine to Gaza, which by the Egyptians has basically not been allowed in. I just spoke to one of the people who's on board the convoy and said that the Egyptians have arrested the convoy leader. So there's somewhat of an escalation with that. So that's not very good news to start off the show.
Well, I mean, this is important, actually. Give us some more information about this. I mean, this is something that typically is experienced by people trying to get in Gaza, an inability to get in. So give us some more details about it.
Well, an aid convoy going to Gaza is not actually something special, and there are convoys that go to Gaza every month. There's nothing special about this in essence. But on this particular occasion, this UK sourced convoy, so to speak, was going to take certainly at least medicines in and various reputable activists from around the world. Now, what's happened is that they basically are stuck in Libya, as far as I know, and are not allowed into Egypt without Israel's permission to use the Egyptian crossing to take the aid to Gaza. So just to clarify, according to one of the people on the convoy, they were told by the Egyptians that unless Israel permits it, the aid will not, they will not be allowed to go through Egypt to Gaza to take the aid. So that sends a very stern message. At the same time, various activists have complained that in addition to that, those on the convoy who are stuck in either Egypt or Libya, it's not absolutely clear at the moment, maybe some of them are in both territories, have been arrested, particularly the head of the convoy. And the convoy is now, because it's been so delayed for weeks getting into Gaza because of bureaucracy and these sorts of issues, has now to an extent disbanded, that many of the people's schedules have been bankrupted, so they've now had to move on to other parts of the world. So this isn't great news. And in the context of recent months and last year or so, convoys generally have been able to go in, generally speaking, in the end. So this is not a great story. In my case, it's more bureaucratic rather than political.
Mm-hmm. But, when I think of the humanitarian ships, the flotillas that have attempted to get into Gaza with humanitarian aid, I think one was named the Rachel Corrie and then the Mavi Mara. They had a difficult time getting in. I hear about people having a different... In fact, I know there was a flotilla that had Alice Walker on board, and they weren't able to get in and to send humanitarian aid into Gaza. So that I was thinking of that kind of situation.
There have been times where humanitarian aid won't go in. However, in theory, the Egyptians are open to it, in theory. For example, when you apply for permission to use the Rafah crossing, that is the Egyptian crossing into Gaza, actually they say, how much aid are you carrying on the form that you fill in? And obviously, usually it's no, because you're just going by yourself or whatever. But they are theoretically, bureaucratically open to it.
Mm-hmm. And this marks a change now that we have President, or is he Prime Minister? I made that mistake before. Morsi. Before I said Professor Morsi. So this time, I can never get it right. I think he's President Morsi, but before Mubarak, it was more difficult. So
it was somewhat more difficult. It's been somewhat more, easier since Morsi's been in power, and it's been more of a flush of good examples. So that's all positive. Actually, in the last few weeks, or now last month or two, there have been certainly construction materials going into Gaza from the Egyptian crossing, not illegally under the border in tunnels, but overground using the actual crossing on a routine basis in large numbers. So actually there is something of an improvement there as well.
And I know that Israel typically says or characterizes the actual tunnels that go from Gaza to the Rafah border into Egypt. They say those tunnels are used to transport military equipment for Hamas and stuff like that. Give us some information on that.
Well, Israel says that these tunnels, which circumvent the Egyptian Gaza border, are used to smuggle weapons. Well, they are, but the point is that most of them are used to smuggle food and donkeys, and fish. So the point is that, yes, but that's not the point. And weapons going into Gaza from an objective point of view is not a problem, because Palestinians have a right to have arms, and they have a right even to use the arms to defend themselves. So there's nothing wrong per se with that. Some background. But there is some other bits of relevant news to do with this issue, which we can talk about in a while, Kathleen.
But before you talk about the other relevant information, can you clarify? I know you discussed this with me before when you were on my show on Wednesday. Can you sort of explain to people why it is that Palestinians have the right to defend themselves? I know a lot of people, a lot of American listeners, a lot of KCAA listeners aren't familiar with the fact that Palestinians have the right to defend themselves. They think of all of them as terrorists. So can you sort of touch on
Sure.
this? Yeah.
Well, we're talking here forgetting a moral right or a religious right or whatever. If you're Christian, it's in Christianity that people, you have a right to defend your home and etc. The point is that in the law, Palestinians have a recognized right, and the law, international law, that is United Nations resolutions and etc., speaks of the Palestinians and their rights and their situation, their problems, and there is an explicit codified right for Palestinians to use any means necessary. That therefore includes a legal definition of armed force or armed defense, to expel occupiers from their land. And so if you look at what occupiers is in this context, it is what international law designates as Israel and the Palestinian territories, yet to be Palestine. So the point is that the international law says that there are two states, Israel, Palestine. The Palestinians have a right to use armed force to get Israel out of their land, basically.
So the issue is that Israel is occupying the land of Palestine. I think that a lot of people don't realize that fact. That's one fact. And some people even question this term occupation. Some say it's not an occupation because that reflects sort of a static situation, but it's actually an ethnic cleansing.
Actually, yes, or colonization. I mean, the point is occupation is meant to be a temporary thing according to the norms of international law. And the point is this has now been going on for decades. So if you look at what's actually been going on while that occupation has indeed been continuing, you can see it's more of a kind of cancerous colonization process than anything else. So in theory, occupation, but much more than that.
Mm-hmm. But much more than that, because often, and in fact, we were going to discuss Obama's visit to Israel this week, and let's touch on that, because one of the things that Obama mentioned is that the United States will continue, despite the fact that we are in talks about the cutting social programs, about the sequester, about the deficit in the United States. We're going to continue to make the commitment to fund the Iron Dome.
Do you know how much the United States gives to Israel? I got this figure today from the Haaretz Israeli newspaper. Over the last 6 decades, Israel has received from the United States in aid $233.7 billion US dollars.
Okay, do you hear that, American listeners? This is what I want KCAA listeners and Americans to realize, that we are funding Israel, okay, a country that is occupying another country, even though they say they're the only democracy in the Middle East. That's not true. Because how can you occupy and ethnically cleanse another country and consider yourself a democracy? And how can you be a Jewish state? That's a theocracy. That's a religion. That's a theocracy. That's not a democracy. So, what bothers me is, why don't our politicians raise these issues? They're like confusing the American people.
Well, I mean, if you look at Obama's visit, which we'll get onto today in the bulk of the program, it's all theater. There's no reality or thinking involved. It's, the idea is that the viewer who sees it happen on television, lies down on their bed, puts their head on the pillow, and it's very comfortable entertainment. That's what the visit is about. It's not about trying to obtain peace or confront any injustice. It's about theater and political theater.
It's about political theater. In fact, last Tuesday marked the 10th year anniversary of our invasion into Iraq. And I watched the press conference between Prime Minister Netanyahu and President Obama last week. And one of the first questions that an Israeli reporter asked President Obama was, what is your position about the fact that Syria has used not nuclear weapons, chemical weapons.
That's right, yeah.
Then the next day I saw a report from the United States that said Syria did not use chemical weapons. So do you get where we're going here? Don't you remember when we were talking about Saddam Hussein and weapons of mass destruction?
It goes on. Well, it's the same with Iran, of course. But the point is that, what I think has happened since Iraq is that those in power, those that for whatever reason want to take us to war, they have learned the mistakes of their predecessors, Bush and Blair and etc., when it came to Iraq, and they're using now much more complicated means of hoodwinking us to take us to Libya and etc. and etc. and etc. That's my understanding, but I guess this is different from what's happening in Palestine.
Well, I mean, I think I would like my listeners to Google A War for Israel, which is written by Jeff Blankford. Jeff Blankford is a frequent guest on my show. Please Google. I think that piece is on leftcurve.org or leftcurve.com. I'm not sure, but it's A War for Israel. So the question that is on the table today is, do we want to go to war in Iran for Israel? Do the American people want to go to war in Iran for Israel? If you saw the press conference between Benjamin Netanyahu and President Obama, from the Israeli perspective, they are obsessed, if that's the right word, with Iran getting a nuclear weapon. That's what they think is going on. And they want the United States to make that not happen by executing a strike.
It's quite extraordinary. I mean, it's almost difficult to talk about because the whole thing is ridiculous. I mean, to mention this idea of theater again, it's almost like a black comedy. The point is that Israel is occupying someone else's country. It's obviously a threat to regional and world peace. It's the one with the illegally acquired, undeclared nuclear weapons, not Iran, that doesn't even have them yet, and apparently doesn't even want them yet.
Yeah, so it's... I'm glad we have this show, and again, I want to thank KCAA and Fred Lundgren for allowing us to explore these issues. We're going to take a break now, and when we come back from the break, we're going to have an interview with Palestinian Shadi, who lives in the West Bank / Hebron, and we'll be back with that interview. We'll be right back.
Refugees, it could be you and your family, forced from your home and your
Playgrounds for Palestine is a non-for-profit 501c3 organization dedicated to upholding the Palestinian child's rights to play. This is a right enshrined in the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child. We operate through a volunteer board and staff, the generosity of our supporters, and a lot of heart. To date, Playgrounds for Palestine has constructed 15 playgrounds in Palestine, as well as refugee camps in Lebanon and Syria. To contribute to this most worldly cause, please go to our website at www.playgroundsforpalestine.org or send a check to Playgrounds for Palestine, P.O. Box 559, Yardley, Pennsylvania 19067 at www.playgroundsforpalestine.org. Are you fascinated by the Middle East, but worried that U.S. foreign policy may lead yet to another war? Do you care about civil rights? For the past 30 years, the Washington Report on Middle East Affairs has brought its readers the real news, minus the corporate media spin. Read about Palestinians trying to survive the world's largest occupation. Learn how your hard-earned tax dollars fund that illegal occupation. Find out how much your members of Congress has received from pro-Israel PACs, and much, much more. Visit the Washington Report's website, www.wrmea.org, or call 888-881-5861 to request a free sample copy. Better yet, subscribe. It's only $29 for 9 issues. Mention Palestine today and get a bonus gift.
Can you smell the aroma of sweet, delicious fruit and flaky, melt-in-your-mouth crust? What is that? It's Cobblermania. Cobblermania is a specialty dessert company founded several years ago that sells delicious fruit cobblers that are baked daily and sweetened with diabetic-friendly agave. Agave, you ask? Yes, it's like sugar, but not sugar, and better than sugar. Cobblermania cobblers are sold at the Torrance, Hollywood, Culver City, San Dimas, Marina Del Rey Farmers Market. Also, apple and peach are sold daily at the Golden Bird in Los Angeles. You know Golden Bird that sells the fried chicken? At 83rd and Western, daily apple and peach cobblers. And yes, guess what? They're coming to the Pomona Fairplex Truck Fest. In fact, they're there right now, Thursdays from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. at Gate 1. Some of the favorites: peach, apple, mango, blueberry peach, blackberry, apple, white peach. If you go to the Pomona Truck Fest Gate 1 on Thursdays from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. and mention me, Kathleen, you'll get something special. You don't want to miss it. I've had them. They're delicious.
Real talk for real people, right here in the Inland Empire. We are 1050 AM, KCAA.
So many years of catastrophe, more than 6 million refugees. It could be you and your family, forced from your home and your history.
We are the people, and this is our time. Stand up, sing out for Palestine.
Welcome back. This is Kathleen Wells. I'm the host of Palestine Today, and my co-host Harry Fear, who is in Egypt, I think. He's trying to make it his way back into Gaza. Harry Fear is a British journalist and filmmaker, and this show, Palestine Today, is focused on Palestinians, their lives, what they're experiencing, all the political, social, and economic issues that are impacting Palestinians and Palestine. We were just talking about Obama's visit to Israel, and what we have coming up now is an interview with Shadi, who lives in Hebron, the West Bank, and I don't know, do we have that interview yet, Harry?
Well, actually, Shadi, I think, is having some technical problems at the moment, but I'm going to try and resolve that and get in with us as soon as possible.
Okay, so we're going to try to resolve. Shadi, let me tell you a little bit about him. He's a Palestinian who is a secondary school teacher, and he lives in Hebron. So we're working on getting that connection. But until we get that connection, why don't I give out the phone number so that folks can call in if they have any comments or questions. That's a toll-free number. It's 1-888-909-1050. So if you have any comments or questions about what we've discussed in the last 30 minutes, we talked about Obama's visit to Israel, his interaction with Prime Minister Netanyahu, and also Harry informed us that in the last 6 decades, America has spent $233 billion in aid to Israel. Did I get that figure right, Harry?
That's right, $230 billion over 6 decades. I mean, it's just unbelievable. I mean, with this money, you could have basically wiped off poverty off the face of the earth, at least.
I love that you said that we could have wiped off poverty off the face of the earth, because, I mean, we have been talking about poverty forever and a day. We never stop talking about it. It never stops being an issue. And yet we've spent $233 billion in aid to Israel. And when Obama was speaking with Prime Minister Netanyahu in his press conference, he assured Netanyahu that we would continue to fund the Iron Dome. And what is the Iron Dome doing? Harry, tell our listeners what the Iron Dome, in the last assault into Gaza, what the Iron Dome did to Gazan citizens. Oh, I think I lost him a little bit. Did we lose Harry, Rob? Oh, we lost Harry, so I'm going to keep talking. Let me give out the... Well, let me say this first. We're spending $233 billion we have spent $233 billion in the last 6 decades in aiding Israel. $233 billion. And you heard what Harry said. He said, we could have wiped with what can we do with $233 billion? That's the question. Harry thinks we could have wiped out poverty in America, in the world, not America, in the world, if we have spent that money correct in that way. If the will was there, if the intention was there to wipe out poverty, we could have done so. But instead, we have decided to spend that money funding military incursion or to spend that money supporting military adventures. Am I saying it right? To spend that money supporting Israel's military adventures against the Palestinians. That's how I want to say it. We have decided to spend that money to support Israel's military adventures against the Palestinians over 6 decades. $233 billion. Harry, do I have you back on the line?
You have me plus Shadi.
Oh, that's fantastic. So, okay. Hi, Shadi.
Yeah, how are you?
Oh, how are you? It sounds like we have a bad connection. We're doing this via Skype, folks. Listeners, this is all via Skype, so be patient with us.
Oh, okay. Okay, don't worry. Okay.
Okay, so, Harry, go ahead.
Shadi, I wanted to start off by asking you your reflections on Obama's visit this week. What happened from your point of view? Has there been anything positive come out of it? And in what context does this guy come to your country?
Okay, first of all, thanks a lot for this interview. This is the first thing, and good evening for you and for your friends, and for all of the listeners that are hearing me now. we are proud that Obama, the first guy in the States and the first guy in the world, visited us. But frankly, and this is not my own point of view, all the guys' point of view here, that he does not respect all of the Palestinians here. Because he visited us only for 4 hours. He visited Bethlehem for 4 hours, and he visited Ramallah for less than 5 hours. And all his speech was about Israel. And all his speech was about the Israelis and how does they suffer from rockets. How does that? I agree with Mr. Obama, Mr. President. I agree with him. But unfortunately, he did not mention anything about our suffering. He only said something. We expected more from the first guy and from the first president in the world. We expected more than this. So, unfortunately, he did nothing. And all of the people here say that he did nothing. The only thing that we gain from his visit is that we do not have school, we have edge-handed soldiers here in our land, and we are in a mess. And on the politics area and on the politics side, we did not gain anything.
Well, I mean, during Obama's visit, several fairly important things happened. I think that there were at least 4 rockets fired from Gaza. You're speaking to us from the West Bank, the other bit of Palestine, from Gaza into Israel. And Israel has punished Gaza, reducing the fishing limit from the coastline to now, I believe, 3 nautical miles or thereabouts from 6, so halving the fishing limit. Palestinian fishermen in Gaza saying now that basically they can't fish in comparison to before. So how do you respond to that in the context, the rocket fire and then the punishment?
Okay. This is a civil thing, sir. I want to ask you and ask your friend a question here. How do you explain that since the truce and ceasefire between Hamas and the Israeli soldiers, no rocket, no bullet, nothing has happened on the border? How do you explain that 4 rockets, and sorry for my accent, by the way. How do you explain that 4 rockets have been launched to Israel? I think that it's a play, or I think that it's not a message for Obama, it's a message or a letter from the Israeli or from cooperator with Israeli people or with Israeli soldiers from the United States, from Gaza to Israel.
I also heard that many people in Gaza believe that these were certainly not from Hamas, these rockets, but were from...
No. These are the first rockets that have been launched since months. Why in this? And by the way, all of them have fallen in an open area.
They've caused no injury.
No one has killed.
Obama talked about wanting 2 states for 2 peoples and asked the Palestinians to drop a settlement freeze condition to restart negotiations. What do you think about that?
Okay. This is another. I'm so sorry. This is another thing. May you answer me? Since how long you have not visited the West Bank? We do not have earth now. We do not have land. Settlements are everywhere. Settlers are everywhere. They are killing. They are cutting trees. They are building. They are building. Buildings, they are building universities here in the West Bank. When they are speaking about the 2 states, but frankly, I laugh. This is a serial thing. I have studied English literature. We call this irony. This is an ironic thing. And I'm serious here. We do not have land. We have all the settlers. We have 7 cities, and we do not have a road or a street between our cities. When you go from Hebron to Bethlehem, you have to go through a settlers, or you have to go through a settlement. So if Obama, a serious president, if Obama, a serious man, he has to stop.
Can you just describe what Shadi, could you just describe what life is like where you live and what it's like for your family members, actually?
Okay, for our family, we live in a town. We live in a town 55 kilometers from Hebron. We live in a little town near the border, an apartheid wall, and we have a very poor family for my family and all the village. We have settlements. We have a lot of settlers here. I'm sorry. I cannot call them human because they are not human. I'm sorry for that. And we go through 3 gates to go to Hebron downtown. We have here a lot of soldiers and a lot of things. Of course, I'm not going to exaggerate things. Sometimes we don't have problems, and sometimes we have. But all the time we face the posters that Arabs are animals, Arabs are blah, 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 and sorry for that, and all of these things when we go from our little town to Hebron downtown.
You know, just hearing you say that they don't act like they're human, this reminded me of something I watched since our last show, a mini documentary called Conflict Zone, produced for YouTube by the National Geographic channel. And people can Google Conflict Zone Palestine National Geographic. And it's a 4-part mini documentary series looking at Israel-Palestine conflict through the eyes of this one. Can you still hear me? Yeah. And during one part of one of the videos, the kind of host of the show, this Palestinian guy, is meeting Israeli settlers, and there's a striking interview with one of them. And it was almost totally impossible, actually, I felt, to empathize or understand with what she was saying or what her position was. She was saying, and she's living on someone else's land, she was saying, you know, the Palestinians, they're not afraid, but we, the whole time, are afraid because maybe the Palestinian kids will throw stones at our cars, and all the time we're living in fear of a stone coming through our glass and etc. And she said it in such a way, it just, her position and her aura seemed so not normal. It was really striking. Kathleen, have you seen the documentary, The Ultra Zionist Settlers, by Louis Theroux?
No, I haven't seen that. It sounds interesting. I should check it out.
It's another great documentary. Kathleen, do you have any questions for Shadi?
Yeah, hi Shadi. I'm Kathleen. I'm here at the KCAA studio, and I want to thank you for taking the opportunity to speak with us and have American listeners hear your voice, KCAA listeners hear your voice. Actually, I feel honored because we never get the chance to hear Palestinians speak, their point of view, their perspective, what their lives are like, or anything like that. So thank you, Shadi.
Okay, then. By the way, thank you, Kathleen. I'm proud to be the first one, and I am all the time at your disposal, and you can call me. You have my number, and I can tell.
Shadi,
yeah.
don't go yet, because we have one very last important thing to talk to you about. Before
we have time.
You go.
Don't. Yeah.
I want to know, and I'm sure our listeners in the United States and across the world want to know, what has to be done here? I mean, if 2 states are impossible because of the colonization in the West Bank, what do you see living there near Hebron, on the ground? I mean, practically, it's in your face. What can be the answer to this?
This is we call our community the key or the key question. This is the key question. What is the solution? What is the solution? I think, in my point of view, the solution is peace. We have to have a very, very serious leaders, not people, that we need, and we are lack of true and serious and positive leaders from the two parts. We have extremists and they have extremists. You know Lieberman, the foreign minister of Israel, and you know Netanyahu. He is an extremist one, and it's from the right. We call it the right labor. Okay, so the only thing is we need now is white heart, and the intention to live in peace. We should have two states, one for us, and another thing, the other thing for them, like Canada, the states, like by the way, Obama said this. Obama, if you heard his speech, he said that he mentioned Canada and the United States of America, and he said we should. He said we should. I say here we must or we have to make two states, and the only way to make this is peace. The two parts have to agree and have to recognize another part. I, as a Palestinian translator, I cannot say that we do not have Jewish, and Palestine is all of Palestine is for us, and non-Jewish here, and not right. Of course, they have right here, and they have their own states. As they have their own states, the other side has to say this. Of course, we have Palestinians here who do not have animals. We have Palestinians here, and they have the right to have a state, at least on the West Bank and Gaza. We don't have a state. When they say and when they speak about the state, we are speaking about 7 towns or 7 cities, and no city, and you can check this out, no city is with another one. Between each city we have a checkpoint, and we have we have streets for settlers, and between each city we have a lot of settlers, mega settlements. We have mega settlements here. So the only way is that we agree on and we recognize that Jewish has the right here, and of course, on the other part, you have to call one Jewish man, and he has to come here and call you and say, how I feel. Of course, I agree that we have the Palestinian part, and they should, they must, they can, they have to. As one of these models, they have to have their own state like we have. Of course, we agree. By the way, Mr. Abbas said that we agree on unarmed state. We do not want weapons. We do not want guns. We do not want explosives. We want only a state, respectful state. We have our own border with Egypt, with Jordan, and we have a state. We do not have jeeps and Israeli soldiers' cars in our downtown arresting us. By the way, I'm afraid of this interview. They arrest anyone without any reason. And
Thank you for taking the risk to talk to us, and we can promise you that you've been heard by thousands and thousands of people who will certainly go to bed tonight thinking about what you said.
Okay, so Shadi believes in the two-state solution. I don't know, that's something that needs to be discussed, because I know many people believe in the two-state solution, including Israel and Palestine. At least they say they believe in it. However, all of the Palestinian land has been already eaten up. If you Google Palestinian map, you will see there's no land for the Palestinians to even have a state on. No contiguous land. Also, so that's a two-state solution. Many activists, many people who are watching this issue believe in the one-state solution. Shadi, when we come back, and also I want to just mention briefly that Shadi discussed something that the Palestinian Issa discussed on the last program last week about the fact that you have separate streets for settlers, for Israelis, and separate streets for Palestinians. When we come back from the break, Shadi, I'd like to keep you on the line. I know you're a secondary school teacher, and I'd like to talk to you about the taxes that are collected and how Israel is holding back those taxes. So we're going to go to a break. When we come back, we're going to continue on with Shadi. We'll be right back.
Refugees, it could be you and your family, forced from your home and your histories.
We are the people.
Playgrounds for Palestine is a non-for-profit 501c3 organization dedicated to upholding the Palestinians' child's rights to play. This is a right enshrined in the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child. We operate through a volunteer board and staff, the generosity of our supporters, and a lot of heart. To date, Playgrounds for Palestine has constructed 15 playgrounds in Palestine, as well as refugee camps in Lebanon and Syria. To contribute to this most worthy cause, please go to our website at www.playgroundsforpalestine.org or send a check to Playgrounds for Palestine, P.O. Box 559, Yardley, Pennsylvania 19067 at www.playgroundsforpalestine.org. Are you fascinated by the Middle East, but worried that U.S. foreign policy may lead yet to another war? Do you care about civil rights? For the past 30 years, the Washington Report on Middle East Affairs has brought its readers the real news, minus the corporate media spin. Read about Palestinians trying to survive the world's largest occupation. Learn how your hard-earned tax dollars fund that illegal occupation. Find out how much your members of Congress has received from pro-Israel PACs, and much, much more. Visit the Washington Report's website, www.wrmea.org, or call 888-881-5861 to request a free sample copy. Better yet, subscribe. It's only $29 for 9 issues. Mention Palestine today and get a bonus gift.
Can you smell the aroma of sweet, delicious fruit and flaky, melt-in-your-mouth crust? What is that? It's Cobblermania. Cobblermania is a specialty dessert company founded several years ago that sells delicious fruit cobblers that are baked daily and sweetened with diabetic-friendly agave. Agave, you ask? Yes. It's like sugar, but not sugar, and better than sugar. Cobblermania cobblers are sold at the Torrance, Hollywood, Culver City, San Dimas, Marina Del Rey Farmers Market. Also, apple and peach are sold daily at the Golden Bird in Los Angeles. You know Golden Bird that sells the fried chicken? At 83rd and Western, daily apple and peach cobblers. And yes, guess what? They're coming to the Pomona Fairplex Truck Fest. In fact, they're there right now, Thursdays from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. at Gate 1. Some of the favorites: peach, apple, mango, blueberry peach, blackberry, apple, white peach. If you go to the Pomona Truck Fest Gate 1 on Thursdays from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. and mention me, Kathleen, you'll get something special. You don't want to miss it. I've had them. They're delicious.
Southern California's Inland Talk Express is KCAA News Talk 1050.
So many years of catastrophe, more than 6 million refugees.
Welcome back, KCAA listeners and those listening on the live stream link. This is Palestine Today. I'm Kathleen Wells, and my co-host is British journalist and filmmaker Harry Fear, and our guest today is Palestinian Shadi, who lives in the West Bank. Remember, we had a guest last week, Issa, a Palestinian who also lived in Hebron. They both have touched on this fact that in Hebron, in the West Bank, settlers have one street to walk on and Palestinians have to walk on another street. That's called segregation, right? in a democracy, are we segregated? Then the other thing, Issa pointed out to us that Palestinians, some of them, not all of them, some of them in Hebron, have to enter their homes via the roof. Does that sound like something when it exists in a democracy? I don't know. Shadi, thank you. I'm so delighted to have you, and I'm excited because I like to get my information firsthand. I don't want it filtered. I don't want it from the TV and, folks, pundits telling me what I should think. I want to talk to people myself and get firsthand information, and I hope most Americans feel this way also. So, Shadi, talk to me about the taxes that Israel is holding back from the Palestinian Authority, taxes that Palestinians paid, but Israel is holding back those payments.
Okay. Thanks a lot for these flattery. By the way, I live now in Hebron, and I have lived all of the cities and towns, and I have a lot of people that I know, and I have experience. Okay, taxes is our right, and this money, that $100 million, is our right, and an economic issue. It's not an economic issue when they put this money in the Israeli bank. They wanna they wanna do this only to make stress and force us to come back to the negotiation and to come back to the talking with Israelis. And we do not come back to these negotiations, to this talking, because the result will be big O, or another word, big zero. So they try to put this money on the Israeli backs and say we are not going to give you your money. Of course, that will make a very, very, very huge and very, very vast problems here. Since months do not have salaries, since months we do not even have our transportation fees. Okay, so I think that on the last 10 days ago, we have our salary, not for the last month, but for the month before. So, as a result, we have very big problem here in economic issue, and the reason for that is the Israeli. And the ironic thing is that they are stealing our money. We don't have problems in money, but the problem is that they are putting our money on their banks. Okay, so they are the reason, and the result is that.
What I don't understand is why they need the money. They already got 233 billion United States dollars.
Exactly. They have the American money, now they have the Palestinians' money. Is it never enough?
No. They do not need the money. You know the politics rule that I have a carrot and I have a stick. Your carrot is me, and I have to beat you on my stick. If you say yes, I will come back to hold it. So for that, I'll come back to the negotiation. You will have half of your carrot, and if you will not come back to the talking or to the table, you will have only my stick. This is a summary for this thing. So the Israeli soldiers have a stick and have the carrot. The carrot is our money, and the stick is their soldiers. We have our soldiers, and we have your money, which is the carrot. I can give you your carrot if you come back to our table and come and negotiate with us for another 20 years. and you will have nothing.
You will have
Don't
nothing.
forget her. Yeah.
You will have nothing. Israel's position is we have our soldiers and we have your money. Well, I want to thank you. We're coming to a close. We only have, 5 more minutes, maybe 4 more. We have 6 minutes. We're coming to a close. I want to thank you, Shadi, for taking the time. I would like to invite you to come back on the show because, as I said, it's important that Americans get firsthand information. Shadi is in Hebron. Yeah. He is in the West Bank. He's a Palestinian. He's sharing his life, his story. He's not a terrorist. Or would he be on the radio if he were a terrorist? So, so anyway, he's sharing, you know what I mean? He's sharing his experience. So I want to thank you, Shadi, for being on the air, and I'll invite you back again.
Much.
Okay, now now I'd like to do some homework. I don't know if it's called homework. I'm not saying that right. But I want the homework for today is to Google War for Israel by Jeff Blankford, which you can find on the website leftcurve.org. That's the homework for today. Google War for Israel by Jeff Blankford. It's on the website leftcurve.org. That's important because during the press conference between Benjamin Netanyahu and Obama, the first reporter asked Obama, what about these chemical weapons from Syria? These folks are, let me tell you, these folks are pushing for a war with Iran. Do the American people want to go to war with Iran? The other thing I want to mention is our sponsors. I'd like to thank Washington Report Middle East Affairs. Go to their website and show them some love. WRMEA.org. Playgrounds for Palestine. And Harry, do you have some closing thoughts?
Well, I just want to say to people that, a lot happens in a week, but some positive stuff has happened as well, which is that a Palestinian hunger striker, Amir, has been exiled to Gaza for 10 years. Now, that might sound not very good. It's a kind of partial victory in a sense. He gave up his hunger strike when Israelis offered to send him to Gaza. So there has been one sort of very notable success or partial success in the last week as well. So I'd like to end us on that positive note. Also to say that Roger Walters, that people know from Pink Floyd. Am I right? It's Pink Floyd, right?
Yes, it is Pink Floyd.
He has publicly called for BDS, boycott, divestments and sanctions against Israel, and has already started publicly defending that position and asking his colleagues in the music industry to not go to Israel, like Stevie Wonder, for example. So there is positive stuff happening. Let's grasp onto it. Let's take the baton and run with it.
Let's take the button and run with it. Also, I'd like to say to listeners, American listeners, contact your congresspeople. Call them. Complain. Say, you don't want to fund the Iron Dome. Call your congresspeople. They represent you. Say you don't want to go to war for Israel in Iran. Do you want that? We can't even fund schools here in America. How can we fund the Iron Dome? I mean, let's get real here, folks.
Kathleen, that if we do something small like this, it makes a big difference. There was a piece of analysis or a scoop that came out in the last few years, which was that one congressman said, if members of AIPAC, the pro-Israel lobby in the United States, the number one pro-Israel group, if members of or their supporters in the United States phone up this congressman and ask him to support a bill to support Israel, it takes maybe 32 pro-Israel supporters to sway his vote so that he will vote for Israel in the United States as a U.S. congressman. And what that means is that if 33 people do the opposite, we've won instead. So the point is that 33 or 32 isn't a large number. So the point is the power is there. We just have to, as I said, pick up the baton and use it.
Just pick up the button and use it, and this is one way to do it by having this show, Palestine Today, so American listeners can be informed instead of being propagandized beyond repair. That's what I always say. You are propagandized beyond repair. We're trying to repair it by having this show, Palestine Today. I think it's a good show. So contact your congressman and say you do not want to fund the Iron Dome, which is ethnically cleansing the Palestinian people. And I've heard from Palestinians on the Palestine Today show, and they paint a different picture. Hey, I didn't know that in Hebron there's one street for settlers, Israelis, and another street for Palestinians. I didn't know that, but I learned it on Palestine Today. So thank you, Harry. Right? You learned it all, and you heard it from you heard it from them firsthand. Issa told us, and Shadi told us. One street for Palestinians and another street for Israelis. Is that democracy? Segregated streets? I think Nelson Mandela will tell us, no way, Jose. So thank you, Harry.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great week. See you next week.
See you next week. Bye-bye.
No matter your faith or community.
You're on board KCAA's Inland Talk Express. KCAA, Loma Linda, 1050 AM, the station that leaves no listener behind.
From the KCAA Weather Center, I'm Chris Earl Phillips. For this afternoon, mostly sunny and a high of 75. Tonight, patchy fog after 11, otherwise partly cloudy, low around 47. Tomorrow, patchy fog before 11, otherwise mostly sunny and a high of 78. Tomorrow night, patchy fog after 11, otherwise increasing clouds and a low around 47. Heading into the work week, we started on Monday with patchy fog before 11, otherwise mostly cloudy, gradually becoming sunny and a high near 78. Monday night, mostly clear, low 49. That's your weather forecast for this hour from the station that leaves no listener behind. NBC News Radio, AM 1050 KCAA.
10:50 a.m. KCAA. I'm Rob Newton. Here's an event from your community calendar. The 8th Annual Teen College and Career Fair is Wednesday, March 27th at De Anza Community and Teen Center from 6 to 8 p.m. This event will give teens the chance to offer information regarding educational opportunities. What am I saying? Meet the local businesses that employ youth in their organizations. Local college representatives will have the chance to give out information regarding educational opportunities. Teens will be able to research everything from part-time summer jobs to future career opportunities. This event is for teens ages 13 to 19. For more information, please call 909-395-2030. That's 909-395-2030. That was an event marked on your community calendar. Stay right here because It's a Crime is up next on the station that leaves no listener behind. I'm Rob Newton, 1050 AM KCAA and KCAAradio.com.
Earth, sky.
Sun pillars, sometimes called light pillars, are beautiful vertical shafts of light. You might